All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be chatting with an individual who competes at Unified MMA 52 on September the 8th. And we've got Hammo defending his Unified MMA Featherweight Championship against John Nguyen. And always good getting to have Majed on the show. How's everything going, man? You having a good day so far?
Yeah, really good day.
Awesome, man. That's great to hear. And seems like you're doing well in general, like just in the sense that I saw you had the post kind of earlier in July. They're number one in Western Canada and number two in all of Canada. I would think that would give you a strong level of, esteem almost, I suppose. I saw you were shouting out Lee Meehan as well, which, very classy and good to show that love to the sensei there. But what was that like to kind of see the Tapology rankings there and whatnot?
It was good to see it. It shows that all the hard work is starting to pay off finally, and was looking, looking like I'm going up again, so it's nice.
Yeah, for sure, and a very important last fight. I mean, definitely a lot to talk about with this next one, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't, touch on the last go-around there, just collecting another belt and another promotion there, and, speaking of Lee Meehan and all, just competing for Rumble in the cage, like, what were the main takeaways from that one there? Like, obviously, I mentioned you collected a belt, but, getting that strong first-round finish at, Rumble in the Cage 65 in June there, like, what were the main takeaways from that one there?
From now on, I was mentally training really hard, and I felt good mentally everywhere. And when my guy came in at 155, and Lee asked me to do it anyways, so I did it. And the way I finished him too, it made me feel good and more confident, and my self-esteem with everything went up quite a bit. So with that, coming into this fight, I feel more confident than ever that I'm still gonna keep going with this rally here.
Yeah, something that I thought was cool too, like you mentioned how it shows like newer strides in your game. Like it seemed like there was a certain element to that last fight that was kind of part of your foundation almost. Like I saw you were shouting out your boys Khalil Azizi and Zamir Safi being there as well, and you were saying your first ever gym was a boxing gym with those guys 17 years ago. So what was it like having those guys involved and everything?
Oh, it was cool. It was cool. I like having the support I have here in Lethbridge. It's immense. There's so many people who are always supporting me, and I love it. And then just training with those guys when I first started, I never thought I'd be where I am today. So starting with them and then them coming and watching me perform the way I did, it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, yeah, no, sorry. I was just going to say, I mean, just very impressive across like the last few, but even like the last two fights there. I mean, I was noticing that if you combine them together, it's less than like one full pro MMA round. And I mean, some different kind of looks too, just in the sense of in the first fight I referenced there, you hand this unbeaten prospect his first defeat, and then in the next outing face someone who has a bit of a pro experience advantage over you. So it seems like you're getting these like varied looks, and I mean, obviously demonstrably succeeding within there. Like, are you getting those varied looks? Is that a fair way to characterize it? And if so, how much does that, benefit your growth as a fighter?
I am, yeah. I feel like I'm getting all this experience through different styles of fighting, and I'm pushing through all of it, and it's the experience I'm getting from each fight is kind of adding on. So it's a nice way to look at it, I guess, and yeah, I'm just going to keep going forward and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, I would imagine so at least, like there'd be a certain amount of confidence imparted by just continuing to log like successful title defenses one after the other, and just, curious to get your general mind frame here heading into the third title defense. Like, is it a great deal different than maybe what it was when you were even pursuing like the vacant 145 belt for Unified initially, or is the mindset, compounded by like a certain sense of, like that incremental success and achievement as one heads into their third title defense? Is there a great deal of difference or not so much?
There is, yes. So the first time I started fighting for the title belt, I didn't have the confidence or the mindset to be the champ that I am now. I think I've developed a sense of mental game that a lot of people can't really reach. It's like a level. I've leveled up mentally in a different way that not many athletes these days have reached that yet. And I feel like I've come to the level with the most best fighters you can name in Canada, and it kind of the more I do it, the more levels I go up, and then but I think it's that mental game that I've leveled up so much that's making me feel so good in these fights. So I think that's what it is.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, you're right up there at this point. I mean, like I'm saying, you have belts across multiple promotions now. It just seems like such like a fruitful division across the country in general, though. Just so many, great talents out there to be had. I would think that would be exciting for you.
There's a bunch of beasts, man, so I gotta always stay on my toes.
And it must be cool doing that with a promotion that I think a lot of people understandably regard as like the top show in the country now. I mean, collecting that Rumble belt, like I mentioned, I mean, that's great hardware in the sense of it's like Canada's longest running promotion, so a great lineage there in its own right for sure. But there must be something cool to, I guess, be like the leading guy within the promotion that really a lot of people look at as like the top show in Canada right now. Like, do you have a level of esteem that comes from something like that, or maybe not so much?
I do, yeah. These guys, Unified has been treating me really well, and they kind of continue doing that, and just fighting on this show how big it is, and like even this one is at the BMO Center. It's pretty huge, So just those kind of big promotions, it brings more and more confidence in, especially getting ready for bigger shows and stuff like that too. So it's nice that I'm getting that level already.
Yeah, and as much as we're, giving understandable credit to Unified, you mentioned like a big show there. Like, do you have a certain idea of what that might represent to you? Like, I know for certain guys, it's like almost like a myopic, like very specific, I want to get to the UFC kind of focus, whereas like some people kind of open it to like other promotions too that are out there. Like, what do you think in that regard?
Honestly, I don't care too much about the UFC right now. There's other shows that I want to get on, like UAE, PFL and stuff like that too. I'm kind of looking at. I just want to go into something where I'm trying to get the promotion or whatever it is I'm going to go for to help me bring my family here. That's my biggest goal, honestly, is to get my family over here. So whichever show is going to help me do that, I'm going to probably chase that one. If the UFC helps me, I'll chase them. If PFL helps me, I'll chase them. If UAE helps me, I'll chase them. So whichever is there to help me bring my family here is the one I'll chase.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's any updates on that, because we have talked about that in past conversations. Has there been any, I guess, strides made in that regard, getting your family over, or?
Yes and no, actually. I am looking for sponsors now, different kind of sponsoring. This time it's for sponsoring my family. So there's a thing called Group 5, where five individuals will get together and sponsor a family over here. So I only have like 2 people willing to help me. So I'm looking for 3 more sponsors that are willing to put themselves out there and help me bring my family here. And kind of chasing that still and getting paperwork done and stuff like that.
Well, that's incredible to hear that there's like a certain level of progress made. I mean, from what you're saying, it seems like there's still a bit of a way to go, but it seems like some progress has been made since even the last time we talked about it. So, I mean, that's great.
Yeah, keep pushing to it. If you don't, then you're not going to get anywhere, so...
Yeah, and are they able to... I think we talked about this, like they're able to, I think, see your fights in a certain regard. Are they able to see it like live in real time via UFC Fight Pass, or...
No, they're ahead of us, or 10 hours ahead of us, or whatever, so they can't. But my dad usually records it for them and sends it to them so they can see it all afterwards.
No, I just think that's so cool, man. Like, I mean, I feel like that's just such a great thing. Like, I feel like anytime I see you post about stuff like that, you just naturally want to, like, rally behind something like that. And, I mean, yeah, it does seem like there's been, like, a certain level of progress, so hopefully it does get to a point sooner than later of them being able to come over here. Yeah, and I feel like you'd be, like, I mean, very close to a position like that. I mean, I feel like if you, like I'm talking about multiple title defenses, if you get a victory over someone like John Nguyen, UFC Fight Pass kind of platform and all, I feel like it would really serve you in, getting a look like that. Have there been, I mean, I'm curious, like, are there preliminary dialogue or even, like, cursory conversations that have been had with some of these bigger shows? Like, do you have a manager that deals with that? Is it largely, like, you who kind of fields these different offers? I guess I'm curious about that end of it.
I kind of leave all that to Lee me, and he's my coach and my manager. Just let him do his thing for me. I know he knows what's best for me, and I kind of just leave it in his hands. He's like a father figure, right? So I kind of just let him do his thing, and he's raised me for 15 years, so let him do his thing. I'm sure he knows what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I feel like he's a super well-connected guy, so, I mean, I feel like he would do... Yeah. Yeah, but curious to, I guess, get some insights into this recent camp. Like, there's always great work to be had at, CMC for sure, but it also seems like you were out at Dynamic a little bit, getting in some work with Matt Krako and some other individuals. So can you kind of talk about the recent preparations that you've had leading into this one?
Oh, I've been jumping around a bunch of different gyms just to get different experiences and different looks and different styles of fighting. And I went to a few different wrestling gyms and a few different striking gyms, and I just want to thank them for having me there. I appreciate you guys at Dynamic, and you guys out here at PFA and everybody else. I just want to appreciate all that, and just trying to get different experience level, guys. You go with the same people all the time. You get into a dull moment, right? So if you get this new experience, new blood, it kind of wakes you up a little bit. It shows you the new avenues of fighting. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to develop more than I need to. I'm kind of looking to surpass this fight. I'm looking past it and looking at more other stuff that are high-level guys that I know I'll be facing in the long road. I'm kind of just getting prepared for that stuff right now, too.
So you're almost like looking at like the next step in a certain sense, like guys that you would want to be facing after. Like, does that represent more of like a just general like skill level kind of thing, or do you have like maybe certain opponents that you would like to face?
Just general skill levels, because I know once I going through the different promotions, all those guys are monsters, so I have to be prepared for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a fair way to look at it. And I mean, maybe this is like just my perception, but it seemed like this fight was like pseudo like a short notice kind of fight. Like, I mean, you obviously strike me as a guy that very much is leading that like lifestyle of a martial artist, so I feel like the readiness would always be there. I guess in saying that, like, is that kind of like how it laid out? Like, just you lead that lifestyle and generally ready, and it kind of came about short notice? Because it seemed like that kind of was like how this rolled out a little bit with this bout announcement. Or were you, I guess, able to get in like a normative camp duration for this one?
Well, I was sure there was like 3 weeks or so. I was training. I'm always training. No matter what I'm doing, I'm always training. I'll take a week here and there off. As a martial artist, you're always training no matter what. As soon as I took that fight, though, I just had to turn it up a bit, into the fight mode. So when you're not fighting, you're just generally maintaining your abilities of fighting, and then you're learning as you're going. But then as soon as the fight comes up, you just turn it up to fight level, and I'm ready. I've been ready for a bit now, actually.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess I'm curious with this fight, though, because one of the past conversations we had specifically ahead of your Justin Basra fight, you were saying how you weren't necessarily surprised and you almost looked at the fight as like an inevitability almost. I mean, a guy like John Nguyen, like he seems like he's been out on the scene a bit as well. Like, was this a similar kind of fight that you almost saw it as an inevitability, like looking at his skill and where he's at in the scene?
It's exactly the same. As soon as I seen John and as soon as I seen Basra, all those guys, I knew one day I have to fight them. And there's a couple other guys I know maybe one day I have to fight him too, but I just thought that maybe John had to earn a couple more fights before, fighting someone my level, but I guess he's got some good hookups, so...
Yeah, his resume is kind of curious in a certain sense because, like, his pro experience, I think, kind of belies the overall experience a bit. Like, you definitely have the edge in, like, professional MMA bouts, but it looks like he has, like, a bit over 20 MMA fights across AMI and pro. But, yeah, I mean, do you look at, I guess, the more localized, like, professional experience as, like, a discernible advantage in this one?
Yeah, I guess so. I fight the feeling that most people do. I don't know if you noticed with my fights, I'm just kind of like all over the place. So you can't really read what I'm going to do. So we'll see how he does with my style of fighting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very fun style to watch, and, I mean, I feel like it would be probably commensurately frustrating for the opponents just not knowing what you're getting up to. But in talking about people's stylistic attributes, I'm curious to get your insights on John Nguyen's? Like, what would you say some of his better, I guess, X's and O's, aspects are in the cage when he's competing?
I've seen a couple of his last fights. They're actually really good. His stand-up has gone up a bit, so I've been working on my striking lots. I want to stand and bang with him, and there's a guy I want to beat that beat me before, and John is kind of the same style of him, so I've been working on some stuff to beat John in order to beat this other guy, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and that's interesting there. I mean, just based on the wording there, I would, make the inference that you're, I guess, referencing Alex Morgan. Is that who you're talking about there?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that...
Revenge one day.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I need my revenge on him one day.
Yeah, I mean, that just seems like one of those, like, fights that is almost inevitable in a certain sense. I mean, it would be curious to, kind of see what happens to him next. Like, he's more under that, like, samurai banner, and yeah, just not really sure what he's going to be getting up to next. I mean, it looks like he last competed in May there under that banner there, but yeah, I mean, a great talent there for sure. And I mean, I referenced you being like, I think the number 2 ranked Tapology guy at featherweight in the country. I think he was the number 1, so I mean, I feel like that's just inevitable. Yeah, that just seems like one of those fights though that, I mean, I guess I'm curious about that too. Like, I guess this would be more a question for Lee, as we were talking about before, but like, has that been a rematch that's ever had any level of traction around it, like you running it back with Alex Morgan, or not so much?
No, if anything, I would have the rematch in my, in my hometown, because last time we did it in his hometown. I feel like this time it should be in my hometown to kind of make it even square,
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I don't think that's a wild thing to put out there. Like, I mean, you went out to where he was at for the first fight, so, I mean, yeah, he could easily, like, come to where you're at for the rematch.
Yeah, there's been no talk about it or nothing, so, but I am training for it just in case.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, good to have that on the radar in a certain sense. I mean, that was, technically the last person you were defeated by in competition, but since then, racking up that 3-fight winning streak, and I mean, quite the remarkable finishing rate. I mean, you got the 100% finish rate across the 13 pro MMA wins. Are we thinking that trend continues here as we head into this next fight?
Of course. I always go for the finish. I never leave it to the judges. Finish is my goal.
Yeah, I mean, just such an incredible track record, especially at the point you're at in your career and the caliber of guys you're finishing and everything like that. And I guess this last thing I wanted to touch on is very much not a question at all, but just curious to maybe get some insights into it. I thought it was kind of funny that you were, I guess, talking to a clerk at a hotel earlier in the summer and they thought you were Habib. Like, what was going on there?
I get that a lot. I must look like him a lot or something, but everywhere I go, everybody always says, hey, you look like that guy. Like, yeah, I know, Khabib. Every single time, so I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll just go with it maybe next time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily see it as, like, I don't know, that directly maybe, but I don't know. I mean, maybe people are seeing different things there. That's kind of funny, though, that it's existed outside of just that one instance there.
Oh, yeah, you'd be so surprised how many people have done it. It's the cauliflower years. That must be it.
Yeah, that's fun, though. But it's been great getting to talk to you, man. It's always fun getting these insights ahead of the different big fights you have. But in being mindful of your time and schedule, Majed, I'm curious if maybe there's a final parting thought you'd like to add as we're sort of wrapping things up here, man.
Yeah, let John know. There's no decision on this one. It'll be a finish.
The track record speaks for itself, and people can check that out at Unified MMA 52, which broadcasts on UFC Fight Pass on September 8th. And to reiterate, thanks for coming on and giving the insights ahead of this title defense against John Nguyen. And just you have a great rest of your day, Majed, and looking forward to peeping the fight when it goes down.
Thank you very much. You have a great day.